I am the worst person at coming up with band names ever. My first band was called Just Like Jason. Um,
And were
Now,
they just like Jason?
no.
Hey guys, James Wilson Taylor here for Roxanne with another of our video calls. We are catching up with everybody while we're all stuck at home. Delighted to say Ben Langford-Biss is on the line. How are you, Ben?
I'm good, thank you. How's it going?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad. Yeah, starting off with the obvious question that we have to do. I hope you're okay. Is everything all right where you are, staying safe in lockdown?
Yeah, everything's fine. I mean, I live kind of in a city centre, so I'm not getting to like go out as much, which is a good thing. And luckily, no one I know has been directly affected. So yeah, just staying in as much as possible, wearing a mask when I go outside.
Very
Yeah.
wise, very wise. Good advice there for sure. Well, it's nice that you're at least in a good position where it's not stopping new music, which is fantastic. So let's dive straight into that. Very, very exciting. The first single's out. Why Am I Here? Now that it's out there in the world, a big step for you, your first kind of solo project. How are you feeling about it? How are you feeling about this release?
I'm feeling really good. I was pretty nervous, not gonna lie, just to put out something that is like completely just you, not even any producers. There was no one. I didn't really even get any feedback from anyone before I like sent it off to iTunes and Spotify. I was like, do you know what? It's about self-fulfillment primarily, creatively. So I was apprehensive to put it out because I really didn't know what the response would be because it's quite different to what people know me for in the past. So yeah, but response has been amazing, and I just can't wait for everyone to hear the rest of it because the rest of it's all very different to that song as well. So
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, we talked to you, of course, a little bit online. You had a chat there, and it was interesting. You were saying that it sounds like such a wide array of inspirations you've taken musically. I know you name dropped like the Smiths and Eels and stuff like that. Talk to me about some of the musical inspiration because, like you say, so different to what you've done before.
So I think, especially when I was in As It Is, that was about the time that I kind of, I grew up listening to pop punk and emo and stuff. And I'll always revert to those albums. Like, those are some of my favorite albums of all time. But when you're surrounded by it so much, the last thing that I want to listen to when I'm like in the van or on the bus is something like that, because you watch three bands a night of that genre or whatever it is. And so I started really getting into, I guess, like, at the moment, like the 70s and 80s has been a big thing for me, like Fleetwood Mac, Nick Cave, that kind of stuff. And from there, it was just going on this discovery of the old that I maybe grew up with, like before getting into music, like my dad's tastes and stuff like that, and really revisiting that with a much kind of, I don't know, a different perspective. I feel like I didn't find it as easily accessible when I was like 14, and things that I'd maybe written off, I was like, started to really get into, started to really understand. I did a tweet today as well. Today I was listening to Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys, and it's just like, I still think one of the best albums. I'd go as far as to say God Only Knows is one of the best songs ever written. So it was just a case of taking all these inspirations that maybe wouldn't have fit on an As It Is record. We did definitely go into the Great Depression kind of taking in a lot more influences, but this was just like a free-for-all, really.
So I guess it sounds like it was kind of a mix then of stuff you were kind of listening to anyway, but then was there kind of a concerted effort by yourself thinking, you know what, let's actually try and push myself and try things that I've never tried before and really kind of go different to what you've been writing before?
Yeah, I think it's a case that, obviously, I think I said before, like, I've wanted to do something solo on my own for so long. But obviously all my writing efforts went into the band, and you kind of write with an end product in mind, you know, especially in as it was, everything was hyper conceptual, and you'd go in and be like, we kind of want the album to sound like this, or we want it to be about that. And this time around, it was nice to just start with a blank slate and really just, you know, every day I'd be listening to something different, and it would inspire me in a different way. And then there were a lot of times when I'd be like, how are all these songs gonna fit on a record together? Like, I have no idea. And as I started getting more into production, I kind of found some sounds that kind of interlink them, and made them a cohesive body of work. But I think it's just nice to be inspired by different things, not even music necessarily. I think part of the existentialness of it is like, I've never seen the movie, but I read for the first time Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, yeah.
And it's actually quite a deeply existential book and read, especially like Marvin as a robot, you know, it's
100%.
like questioning life and everything. So just taking inspiration from everywhere, and really not going in with the sound in mind, just seeing what comes out at the end.
Yeah, no, good attitude to have for sure. I mean, that's what opens up new ideas, isn't it? You're actually being able to try and be open to the idea of trying lots of different new things. And I guess, again, you said it's something you'd had in your mind for a while, and for years, you know, you'd always thought about maybe trying something out on your own. Why did you feel like, what made that decision now? Why did you feel like now is the time that I actually have that confidence and I have that impulse to be able to try all these new things like we've just said?
Ironically, I think the fact that lockdown happened provided the time.
Sure.
It definitely provided the time for me to be able to like, right, I've got X amount of songs, I actually have the time to finish them and like really sit down with them. At the beginning of the year, and when I came out of the last tour in November, I really wasn't sure whether I was gonna, I don't know, be a part of the music industry again. I always knew that I'd write music, but whether I put it out there, I really kind of took myself back. I took myself off social media for quite a while, and just tried to kind of live a bit of a private life. And I was kind of happy with my music being like that as well. And I don't know, I just, I guess I felt like eventually when I had enough, I was like, oh, I think this is like shareable and worth putting into the world. And especially with lockdown, and I think it came back down to the fact as well, you saw so many artists pushing back releases because they couldn't tour around it to promote it, or whatever the reason is. And I found that actually this is a time, whether you can tour it or not, where the world needs more art and needs more music for people to listen to. And obviously my reasons for leaving the band were primarily kind of touring based and the grind based. And I was like, well, I can put stuff out. I don't need to tour it, because I probably will do shows in the future, but not like 3 month, 4 month at a time blocks. So I was happy just to put music out. If I don't get to tour, it doesn't matter. So yeah, again, the concept came before COVID-19, but it definitely felt more appropriate after that happened. I was like, oh Jesus, like this is yeah.
I mean, you're not the first, you won't be the last of people putting out music at this time and going, oh, that's got a new resonance. That's very strange how it suddenly clicks.
I think there'll be, people in 10 years time will look back on it, on the like Corona era of music and songs that were about that and things that were influenced by that. And, I did a joke tweet about, I'm sure everyone was watching 545 Fest at the weekend, and that some of these bands are putting together such unique performances for these online festivals that them in themselves might become iconic of this time, you know?
Yeah. Remember where you were when you watched that gig type of thing. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I was on my sofa, you know?
Yeah, exactly. We all were. We're all on the sofas. You mentioned briefly there as well that that kind of last tour last year. I did want to mention that briefly because I guess maybe it's something we can only appreciate now that it's a little bit further back. But what a unique position that was. Like obviously, you know, you guys are all still such great friends, and it was such an amicable decision there. I can't think of any other band where that's happened, where a member's left and you can have a celebratory farewell tour for them. And like, what an incredible, unique gift of a position to be in.
It really was. I mean, I think when I told the guys, I don't think anyone was like particularly shocked, based on how I'd found the previous kind of 6 months of our touring cycle. And I remember I was either Patty or Ali. I can't remember who, but they effectively turned around when I said I wanted to leave, you know, and they were saying, you know, if you want to like still write with us, you know, you don't have to tour. So it really was a very unique thing, because originally Gunnersville was going to be my last show. That was it. And then we went into our management office and told them, and then it was Patty that turned around being like, do you really want your last show to be like 30 minutes in the middle of the day to probably, you know, it's You Me at Six's crowd, effectively, Jimmy Eat World crowd, you know, not our crowd. And I was like, no, you're right. I could probably do one more. I think, you know, we all deserve it. Fans deserve it. It'll be fun. And that last tour was kind of like the old days of touring. You know, it was just, there was no pressure. It was just hanging out with your mates and playing some shows. And yeah, I loved it. And it's weird because, you know, I left again, primarily because the touring was too much and now no one can tour.
Yeah, how
now,
weird.
Touring has stopped anyway.
How strange. What a strange situation. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's so funny, isn't it? But like you say, people adapting online. Obviously, the boys doing the 545 Fest as well the other day. But yeah, that tour was just it was just such a kind of landmark thing. Because like I say, I cannot think of any other band where that has been the case, where it's been that amicable, where you can actually say, hey, here we are, we're all friends, let's have a bit of a party. And even down to, you know, the venue choice, the set list, this was a proper celebration of what you guys achieved together.
Yeah. I think, again, yeah, I can't think of any other band that it's been like that for. You know, it was there, did it for 8 years. And, you know, you grow up with these people into like fully fledged adults, I guess, to a certain extent. Sure, some people would disagree, but and yeah, there was no way that was ever going to end on bad terms. So,
of course, lovely to see.
FaceTime Ron the other day, and he was like, "Oh, we should do this on Instagram Live," and you know, let's speak to them so regularly.
Oh, of course. Yeah. It's a lovely thing to see. It really, really is. And show that support as you all kind of move on to different things. And speaking again, of course, of what you've been up to, I guess one of the questions that fans will have most, I would imagine, is the fact that you're not under your own name for this. You're going under the moniker of Bleak Soul. Talk to me about why, firstly, I guess, why you decided not to go under your own name in that way, and then the decision to pick Bleak Soul as the title.
So originally I was going to go under my own name. Because it was all about proving to myself, but also to everyone else, you know, can do it on my own. I did start to have, when I was in the band, you start to have, especially a band as active as we were, you did start to have these like identity crises of like, oh, who am I aside from being the guitarist in this band? And that would always hit me whenever I came home. And so I was like, no, I'm going to use my own name. I'm not going to like hide behind some other name. And I don't know, I didn't really feel like my name leaves the tip of the tongue very easily. And then I was like, oh, maybe I'll do it as like Ben and the something, you know, one of those. And then it was like, and then there's a line in Hand Me Down Head, which has the term the bleakness in. and then it was like maybe it'd be like Benjamin Langford-Biss and the bleakness, and then I don't know. I was just writing in notes one day, and then that kind of just stuck. You know, when you just have something, and then suddenly that's it. It's just like, oh, okay. It looked cool written down. It was kind of, it went with the vibe, and it just kind of all made sense. And again, I was in a band called As It Is. I am the worst person at coming up with band names ever. My first band was called Just Like Jason.
And were they just like Jason?
No. And then we changed our name to Totally Short, which is arguably worse. So I don't have a good reputation for coming up with band names, but I was particularly proud of this one. I thought it kind of summarized everything that I was going for, because as people know, with my contributions to As It Is, I'm not the most optimistic person in terms of what I put into my music. So,
well, you know what's funny? Even look at, like, having listened to the stuff I have, like, it's not the word bleak that stands out to me. It's soul, because you are, for want of a better phrase, you are bearing your soul a bit more. And this one it's a bit more of an insight into you personally. You talk, again, in the online chat, which I encourage people to read, you talk about the fact that, it's some kind of your family history in there. There's things you've seen over the years that affected you and are kind of stuck in your memory there that you wanted to kind of get out and share with people. I mean, that must be really freeing. And of course, it's because it's your personal project, but being able to address these more personal themes in that way.
No, definitely. I think, because I'm so used to it being a case of me and Patty kind of writing the lyrics together and making an accumulation of like the similar things that we'd felt, or like the similar things that we've been through. And then this being just entirely my experience or my observation. A lot of it, a song called Palm Springs, that was adapted from a couple of years ago. I got quite into writing like prose and trying to write, I don't know, kind of stories, but they're not really stories, they're just observations. And then that adapted into the lyrics of that song, and it was kind of freeing. I think I said, like, I was kind of worried because a lot of it is like, even if it's only momentarily, like a collection of the darkest thoughts, and some of them I was a bit apprehensive to leave in, but ultimately it was like, it was real, it was raw. It, if there's something that kind of grates, then some of those moments are kind of purposeful. It's like an uncomfortable feeling, because that's what it is. Like, some of those lyric lines are quite uncomfortable, but that's kind of how life has been a lot of the time. So
no, of course. And I think, again, it's we go back to the fact that I think a lot of these kind of feelings and emotions and therefore the songs will resonate a lot more in these weird times we find ourselves in. Yeah. People in lockdown, I think, can relate to the darker recesses, even if it's just for a moment to dip into it, right?
Oh, completely. Like, I remember seeing that article. I can't remember. I think it was like Rolling Stone or something, that was like, oh, the music industry's, people just want happy songs during this time. Like, do they really? Like, I definitely don't.
Are you finding that this is inspiring more writing? Like you say, these songs do resonate at the time. Are you doing a lot more writing now that you have this time available?
Yeah, I haven't really stopped. I've been literally since like finishing it. It was like, finished it, and then just like straight on to like writing new stuff. And it's nice not to feel limited by being like, do an album, tour it for a year and a half, do another album. It's like, if I want to just drop a song rather than like sit on it until I've got the rest of the record, I can do that. So I think, yeah, it's going to be like a really steady stream, hopefully, of creative output. Um, I, I don't think it'll be like the last thing I put out this year. So I really want to do. I have loads of ideas. It's just making them happen. So I do want to do like a covers EP, again of things maybe people that have come over from As It Is maybe wouldn't have heard of. I would say, like, you know, I got into Gorilla Biscuits because Fall Out Boy covered them on some compilation, and it's just nice to do those kind of things. And I really, it's hard now because obviously I can't see anyone, but I do want to do some like collaborative things as well with other people. I think maybe this is the perfect time for some kind of like postal service project, you know, it was just like sending things back and forth. But yeah, I have loads of ideas. I have the time to do them at the moment. So yeah, there'll be a steady flow of new stuff.
Yeah, exciting to hear, man. Exciting to hear. And you know, you mentioned very, very briefly earlier the possibility of live shows when they're allowed again, of course. But that's something you are thinking about actually getting back up on stage.
Definitely. Again, not long blocks at a time. And I mean, even when shows resume here, God knows when anyone can go to America. But yeah, I get really. I've only ever done like one show, and it was an acoustic tribute show to Elliott Smith where I played on my own, and I was so nervous. I don't know whether doing shows just me will be a thing. I would really like to put a live band together. So it might take some time because obviously this has to all end. Then I have to form a kind of a live band, and then I will eventually be able to play shows. But you know, it's going to be an interesting time when shows return because, you know, everyone is going to be so desperate to go back out. I mean, I can't even imagine some of the like tour packages that are going to be put together when shows are allowed back.
Yeah, we kept saying, like, you look at the things that were supposed to be happening this summer. It's like, yeah, well, we'll get those next summer, and presumably whatever was already planned for next summer will be coming in as well. It's going to be a big old time for sure.
It was too good to be true that I'd get to see my cam. So yeah.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed, man. It'll all be back. It'll all come. Ben, it's really good to chat to you, man. Best of luck with all the rest of the new music coming out. And yeah, stay safe, and we'll catch up face to face at some point, I'm sure.
You too. All right. I'll speak to you soon.
Good to chat to you, man. All right. Bye, everybody.